Oyez! Oyez! Welcome to London on a very, very, very hot day.
At the start of August, Britain was basking in the latest of the heat waves that had become the defining feature of 2003. Meanwhile, in Europe, a new record high was set when a temperature of 47.4 degrees Celsius or 117 degrees Fahrenheit was recorded in Portugal.
You'd turn on the news and you'd hear that people were dying. And I realised that this actually wasn't a one-day event. This was going on a bit, you know, this was going on for a few weeks now.
In France, it was a horrible situation, and I think, as in this country, but in a more extreme fashion, people just kind of weren't ready for it.
Europe was literally burning. Portugal, in particular, saw forest fires and wildfires that were out of control.
The cost of the disaster is still being counted in lives lost, homes destroyed, and businesses ruined.
We need to remember that across Europe, August is a time when most public services start to be stripped back. That there are the mass public holidays where many sectors will actually move away from cities and go on holiday themselves. So again, it was almost a perfect storm of a lack of resources and incredibly challenging weather that led to this.
Closer to home, the soaring temperatures had claimed its first victim. On the 6th of August, a 17-year-old workman died after going for a swim in a lake near Basingstoke and Andover.
A beautiful setting, but a tragic scene. Last night, the 17-year-old had gone for a swim to cool off in the ornamental pond he was helping construct. He drowned within minutes. With temperatures set to remain high over the next few days, the authorities are hoping that people will heed their warnings not to go swimming in lakes and rivers and hope that further tragedies can be avoided.
During the first week in August, the rising temperatures teased a nation more obsessed than ever.
British weather is maverick. It doesn't follow the normal rules of play. I genuinely didn't realise how obsessed Brits are about the weather until I became a weather girl. And then I realised it is the #1 topic of conversation. It is the first thing we ask. What's the day got in store? What's it going to be like? Isn't it a horrible day? Isn't it too hot? Isn't it too cold? I think we are utterly, utterly obsessed with it.
I mean, look, the Brits are known for it. If you speak to people around the globe, you know, the Brits are known for politeness, queuing, and the weather.
Nervous anticipation swept the country as people waited and sweated over what lay ahead.
Could the thermometer hit that magical 100 degrees Fahrenheit or 37.7 degrees centigrade and beat Cheltenham's all-time high?
The start of August 2003 really felt like something was building nationwide. So we're all used to little pockets here and there, but at the beginning of August 2003 there was a real sense that, hang on a minute, this is happening everywhere. So it started on the 5th, where in Wales they saw their highest temperature. Then it moved to Northern Ireland a few days later, and then Scotland. What is this madness? Highest recorded temperature.
You got the feeling that something was happening, that it was different to a usual year.
The extreme heat was more prevalent across southeast Britain, but even in Scotland they had this record-breaking temperature up around 32 degrees.
On the 9th of August 2003, temperatures in Greycrook in the Scottish borders set thermometers skyrocketing when the mercury soared to 32.9 degrees Celsius, smashing the century-old Scottish record.
I kind of remember almost a sense of panic. I think there were a lot of organisations that didn't quite know what to do. And I think instead of sort of trying to mitigate or trying to get some solutions, they just thought, you know what, let's take the hit, let's close down, let's not take the risk of someone passing out, someone getting into difficulties whilst they're using our services.
Today, the London Eye had to close due to overheating in the capsules, leaving thousands of visitors disappointed.
This majestic thing that was brought in for the millennium and has become an integral part of the London skyline literally creaks and grinds to a halt because it's too hot for the metal. No one could have seen that coming.
The London Eye shut because it was too hot. I like the London Eye. I do. I think that's a wonderful piece of engineering, but even that couldn't cope.
Well, I'm really very upset about it, actually, because we've been looking forward to this for a very long time. We've paid a lot of money to get here.
With the nation caught in the clutches of an intense heatwave, organisers of the Bakewell Show in Derbyshire introduced the most unlikely of sports to that year's country fair.
Some of the things you forget about 2003 is how far the madness went. Bakewell, which is in the north, traditionally the home of the Bakewell tart. But for that year, it was also the home of camel racing.
You know it's a hot year when they start doing camel racing in Bakewell. I mean, it's ridiculous. Ships of the desert in the Peak District.
Camel racing does actually do it for me. I think that it's very, very exotic indeed. I mean, I have ridden in a donkey derby in Blackpool, but I have never ridden in a camel race.
As the camels rose to the challenge in Bakewell, animals elsewhere in the country were struggling under the heat.
Today, animal welfare groups are urging farmers not to move livestock, and the AA is warning drivers not to leave children and pets locked in back seats for any period of time.
At West Midlands Safari Park, animals were given special ice lollies made of fruit and vegetables to cool them down. Temperatures were soaring. On the 9th of August, whilst records were being broken north of the border, London reached a breathtaking 36.4 degrees Celsius or 97.5 degrees Fahrenheit. And that magic number was edging ever closer.
Although it must have felt like it to some, today's weather didn't break the record. But tomorrow's might.
On Sunday, the 10th of August, Britain awoke with only one thing on its mind.
There was an almost palpable excitement about breaking the 100-degree Fahrenheit mark. It was a, will it, won't it? Will this happen, won't it happen? It sounds strange retrospectively to look back and think, how can this possibly be an exciting time? But anything that builds up to breaking a record is exciting, especially in news departments. This is an exciting moment in our history.
Everybody was becoming obsessed with that number. Will it hit 100 degrees? The papers were going crazy with their headlines. You know, it's going to hit 100, it's going to hit 100.
It was weird, like weather for a lot of our lives is an and finally on the news. It's something that's inside the papers, it's last on the news bulletin, and then suddenly it's what becomes the start of it. It's like, are we going to break the temperature? Is the record going to be broken today?
It's a cumulative effect, really. It's the fact that it was drying out and becoming quite sunny and staying very warm for week upon week. The previous very high temperature was 37.1 degrees back in 1990, and that was in Cheltenham on the 3rd of August. Now, that was the temperature we had to match or beat in 2003, and we did that quite comfortably.
This was a day when new highs were being recorded all over the country. They were the first to break the record at Heathrow's weather station, measuring 99, then 100 degrees Fahrenheit.
Later the same day, 100 miles east of Heathrow, temperatures in Brogdale in Kent reached a staggering 38.5 degrees Celsius or 101 degrees Fahrenheit, smashing the new high set just hours earlier.
For Met Office forecasters, it was something to tell their grandchildren.
I remember the big day perfectly. We were in the garden having another barbecue, and as soon as the people putting in the new kitchen had gone home, we jumped into the rigid pool in the garden and spent the next 2 hours in there, I think, with a drink.
I did feel a little bit sorry for the Arsenal and Manchester United teams because on the hottest day, August the 10th, was the Charity Shield match. You could tell that they were suffering. Everybody was sort of pouring water all over themselves. I think Alex Ferguson said, oh, it was 41 degrees on the pitch. It wasn't. I think he then went on to say that he was glad that he was in Manchester because it's going to snow the next week. A Scotsman not being too happy in extreme heat, yeah, I'll buy that.
By the 10th of August 2003, the latest of that year's persistent heat waves had reached a crescendo. Just hours after a new record temperature of 100 degrees Fahrenheit or 38 degrees Celsius was set at Heathrow, the record was smashed again at Brogdale in Kent when the mercury rose to 38.5 degrees Celsius.
History was made here at exactly 2:43 this afternoon. The records were broken in the most spectacular way. Today's weather will be remembered for a long time to come.
But whilst the southeast basked in record-breaking conditions, in other parts of the country, the heatwave had come to an abrupt end.
Thunderstorms caused flash floods in towns throughout the northeast.
I always remember my grandmother saying, oh, we need a good thunderstorm. She was like the mystic Meg of South Wales in hindsight.
August the 10th was a really significant day. Not only were we seeing record-breaking temperatures in Kent, but in the northeast of the country, it's a whole different story. The heatwave has popped.
So you've got Costa del Kent doing what it usually does, having these record-breaking temperatures. And then everywhere else, and I was in Manchester, everywhere else is like, yep, here we go, here come the rainstorms.
More than a month's rainfall came down in a matter of hours.
By the 13th of August, Britain's record-breaking heatwave was over, as the nation started to count the costs. Families at home and in Europe were left devastated by tragedies caused by the weather. It's estimated that in the UK alone, there were 2,000 excess deaths. August 2003 was the hottest August ever recorded in the Northern Hemisphere and broke all previous records for heat-related deaths. In Europe, deaths linked to the heatwave were estimated to be as high as 70,000, many of them elderly or vulnerable.
Residents of this old people's home in Gravesend, Kent, survived Britain's highest ever recorded temperature, over 100 degrees in the shade.
It was terrible for me because I suffer with asthma.
Following the heatwave, the UK government and the Met Office have continually worked hard to protect the British public from extremely hot weather.
One of the biggest changes to come about since 2003 was the formation of Heat Health Watch. What is Heat Health Watch? It does what it says on the tin. Basically, it is a program whereby from the 1st of June to the 15th of September, we are given advance warning of prolonged spells of hot weather and also what to do in order to cope well with it. It's preventative rather than reactive, and it makes total sense.
One of the things I noticed during my time working on the weather is that we no longer celebrate heat waves in the way that perhaps in 2003, 2004, you would have. People would be, you know, even on the weather forecast, you'd have weather presenters saying, get the barbecues out, darling, you know, it's going to be a scorcher. Whereas as time goes on, we no longer celebrate that stuff, which is a result of climate change and the warming of our planet, because that's not something to celebrate.
I don't think we were having that conversation in 2003. I don't think it was in the public psyche like it is now. People were reacting differently. That's why you get that sort of, let's bet on the weather, let's bet how hot it's going to go, oh my goodness, record-breaking temperatures. I think now the same news has different connotations. The same news today perhaps has that tinge of, well, hang on a minute, maybe we're not doing enough to slow the rise in global temperature and all the dangers that come with that.
We are predicting that these sort of events will happen more frequently and be more severe in the future. So if we can't cope with what's happening today, then we need to adapt.
The record high temperature of 2003 has been broken twice since. The heatwave of 2019 saw thermometers reach 38.7 degrees Celsius in Cambridge, and just 3 years later, the record was broken again when, during the sweltering heatwave of 2022, temperatures surpassed 40 degrees Celsius for the first time ever.
I think you can't keep repeatedly breaking temperatures without it leading to you realising that something is changing in our global climate.
I genuinely feel there is a confusion around what global warming means. It's not just a matter of, yeah, every summer from now is going to be like record-breaking temperatures like 2003. What it also means is things becoming rather more discombobulated. There's also going to be longer spells of wet weather. There's going to be uncharacteristic spells of weather. So really what we needed to take away and learn from our experiences in 2003 is a greater understanding of how we can be proactive when we have a greater understanding of what is coming our way, and then how we can be preventative to try and stop it happening in the first place.
For me, the past 20 odd years have been like waking up from a hangover. You know when you wake up, and 2003 would have been the year we woke up, and when you wake up from a hangover, you think, oh, okay, got away with that a bit. And then suddenly, all the terrible, embarrassing, awful things that you did the night before come at you. That's what's been happening for the last 2 decades. We've just realised all the terrible things we've done and are still doing, and now it's catching up with us.
Global warming may have changed our attitude to record temperatures, but for those who lived through the heatwave of 2003, the memory of that record-breaking summer will last a lifetime.